As I'm sure everybody is aware of by now, the state of Florida, under our Surgeon General Joseph Ladapo and, of course, Governor Ron DeSantis, they made the decision recently to get rid of childhood vaccine mandates to attend public schools here in the state of Florida, or really any school, preschool, private school, doesn't matter. You cannot require that these children have their vaccines to protect themselves and all the other kids in the school. Nope, no more. Ladapo came out and proudly said, this is more about parental choice. You know, parents need to have a say in what happens with their kids. Yeah. And I should have a say about whether or not my kid can be exposed to deadly yet preventable diseases when I send him to school where I'm legally required to send him, right? I have a fucking choice in the state of Florida too. But you're taking away the majority of people's choices so that this fringe, freak-ass minority that thinks vaccines are evil can win the day and spread diseases to my kids and everybody else's kids. You're taking away our choice. You're taking away our safety. You're taking away our freedom to not worry about what our kid is going to come home with inside their bodies. So piss on out of here with that, oh, it's parents' choice, because you're taking away the choices of 99% of the families in Florida. But more importantly, actually not more importantly, but on the same level, Republicans also think this is the dumbest thing in the world. Republicans in Washington, D.C., unfortunately not from the state of Florida, however, where they could actually have some influence, had this to say. First one is Republican Senator Shelley Moore Capito from West Virginia said, quote, vaccinations have proven to be, the basic ones, helpful in preventing the spread of measles, polio, and other things. My children are vaccinated. My grandchildren are vaccinated. I don't agree with that. Then, of course, you had Republican Senator Tom Tillis, who said, quote, it's a horrible idea. I think it's a bad idea, and I think it could create a pressure on other states to do the same thing. He continued, I just think it's bad policy. I don't think it's rooted in science. I think it's rooted in political science, but not epidemiology. I think it's a mistake, and I think there could be some one-upsmanship measure that I hope North Carolina doesn't touch. Now, he brings up a good point, because we see this happen in state after state after state after state, year after year after year. You know, think back to what we had happen in Wisconsin, God, forever ago, right? They started attacking the public teachers unions, the other public unions. The Koch brothers were funding it, and it became this little laboratory of democracy. Can we succeed? Can we do it? And they did. That was Scott Walker. And he did. And then what did we immediately see? It came down here to Florida. It spread all throughout the South. It went to other Republican-controlled states. They did the same thing once they saw it could be successful. The abortion bans. Same thing. And now, Tom Tillis, a Republican from North Carolina, is warning us we're probably going to see it with the vaccine mandates going away as well. And then they'll one-up each other to the point where vaccines could actually become illegal. You're going to have a back alley vaccine at some point. Some guy in a trench coat open it up, be like, hey, you want the measles vax? Come on, I got the polio vax, whatever you want here. Come on, just $10 a piece. Like, that's the point we will get to in this country. And it all comes from Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who, by the way, polls have shown majority of Americans freaking think that this guy's a lunatic and his policies are lunacy. But I continue. Senate Majority Whip John Barrasso, Republican from Wyoming, said he has grown deeply concerned with whether the secretary, talking about Kennedy, would uphold the highest standards for vaccines as he had promised. Spoiler alert, he won't. Republican Representative Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania said, I don't agree with him on vaccines. It's that simple. Vaccines save lives. I support them, and I think any effort to erode them is damaging our country. And then the polling data, right? Only 24% of respondents thought that new federal vaccine recommendations were based on science and facts. So less than a quarter of the country believes that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is acting based on science. And I can tell you, he's not acting based on science. This is the same guy who, in the early days of Ring of Fire, when he was the co-host, used to go out there talking about the scientific consensus on climate change, on other things, and how dare you go against the scientific community? That's just stupid and pig-headed. And now he's become the very thing he used to rail against in those segments that I would produce for the show. Again, just so people don't forget, I was there firsthand. I was the producer. I heard what he said, and now I see what he's become, and it's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. And for the record, I'm not the only one saying that. As I mentioned last week, Donald Trump's own very trusted pollsters, Tony Fabrizio and Bob Ward, have warned him and other Republicans in D.C. that Kennedy is tanking them. That's what I say about majority of people see the lunacy of him and his policies. Trump's own pollsters are kind of warning about that. And then a Politico report several days later, after that segment aired, came out saying that the Trump administration, Trump himself, is actually trying to, quote, rein in Kennedy, which of course is something that's never going to happen. He's a stupid man who believes stupid things, and he's going to keep doing stupid things till he's no longer able to do stupid things physically. So there you have it. And listen, here's another thing that gets me. This whole thing about not vaccinating your kids. Again, not rooted in science. And the problem is, not the problem, I don't want to wish any ill upon the kids. They have no say in the matter. But when you have a parent that says, I'm not going to vaccinate my children, I'm going to keep sending them to public school, I'm going to do all these things, those kids can grow up to be totally fine, right? They never get sick. They don't get any of these horrible diseases that we had all but eradicated. And so the parents are like, see, I told you. Nah, nothing happened, right? Well, let me put it to you this way. More often than not, when a drunk person gets behind the wheel of an automobile, they don't kill anybody. They don't wreck their car. They actually make it to their destination the way they set out to do. But it's still illegal to do that. Do you know why? Because the possibility exists to a far greater degree for a sober driver that that individual that is drunk behind the wheel is going to kill someone or kill themselves or both or have massive property damage that, of course, is going to cost the state money and rescue fees and all that. Because the possibility exists to a far greater degree, it's illegal. Your kid may be unvaccinated. That unvaccinated child may not ever catch the diseases and may never infect anybody else. The next one may not either, and the next one and the next one and the next one, but then one will. And that infected child, himself, herself, could die. They could give it to another kid and cause that kid to die. It's a drunk driver behind the wheel. Maybe nothing happens. Maybe the worst possible thing in the world happens. But we do know that that possibility is lessened when you take away the danger factor. For a drunk driver, it's the alcohol. For a child, it's getting a vaccine reduces that threat. It's a very simple analogy that apparently the anti-vaxxers, for the life of them, cannot understand. And they're willing to gamble their own child's life that they'll be one of the lucky ones. That is nothing short of child abuse. Thanks for watching, everyone. You know, we're inching closer and closer to 1 million subscribers, and we're aiming to hit that goal before the year closes. So if you aren't subscribed to the channel, please do so, and don't forget to like, comment, and share. Thanks for joining us as we head towards this huge milestone.